Okay. Just a couple seconds here.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
see what makes-
fine. I think Mike's gonna join us remotely. I told him, no, not right at 6, but he'll be along.
So we can go when he gets here, but he can cut the line if you want him to.
I forgot
Gonna be
moving
one of
along.
those-
What happened in a few months?
Yeah, but if you cut the line and you're not moving along, you should just switch up the order.
Fair enough.
If we know we have
Maybe
someone
one of
waiting,
those
it'll move us
nights.
along.
All right, 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call to order the February meeting of the Danville Board of Directors. It is, my name is Clayton Cargill. I'm the chair of the Danville School Board. We're gonna go around the room to have one remote administrator. We'll have you introduce yourselves.
I'm Dave Toll, Vice Chair.
Most Conley board member.
Tim Sanborn, board member.
Molly Gleason, clerk.
Thomas, you wanna go?
Thomas Edgar, student representative.
Sarah.
Sarah Welch, elementary principal.
Dave Schilling, technical learning director.
I've got one on remote.
Mark Tucker, superintendent.
Thanks, everybody. Moving on, I'm gonna ask about additions and changes to the agenda. I know of 2. And so I'm gonna first look for, the first thing that we need to add is one set of special meeting minutes that came from 2/1. I'd like to add those to the agenda. They were short. They got distributed with the packet. I'd like to add those in and get them approved tonight. So I'd be looking for a motion to do that.
So moved.
Got one? You looking for a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Second thing, we talked about again today, I sent you around the documentation on it. I sent you around also the specific request that it was. This is a mission and vision fund request for the discussion and then the approval from a specific fund that's already allocated. So this is, and I'd like to add that to the agenda under board business, please. And I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. A second there,
Second.
Melissa. All right, all in favor of moving that onto the agenda?
Aye.
Mark had his hand up.
Those are the 2. Mark, do you have an addition to the agenda?
Just to ask, when Mike gets here, if we could move the budget surplus process discussion up ahead of the teacher contract ratification, just change the order of those 2. And then he can do his 2 things and go,
All right, great.
unless you think the ratification is gonna be like a 5-minute.
I think it's gonna be, I can plead my case, and I can plead it pretty convincingly, I think.
Okay,
If it takes more than 5 minutes.
We
that
got a
shouldn't-
problem.
He's
Well,
bleeding too much.
there's- There aren't a lot of- So there aren't a lot of specifics to discuss with regard to rights and responsibilities, so I wouldn't think it's gonna take too long.
okay.
All right, anything else for tonight?
Are we leaving it then as is? Not making a change?
I'm allowed to move up and down the agenda as I see fit.
I'm not gonna make a note about that.
So. All right, nothing else added to the agenda? Okay. So what I'm gonna move down to is to approving the minutes, and we've got 4 sets of minutes now to approve. We have the January 3rd minutes that came up, and so what we'll do is we're gonna talk about each one of these minutes, and then we're gonna approve them all in one motion. So the January 3rd minutes were our regular meeting minutes, and there was, did everybody have a chance to read through those when they came out? And is everybody okay with them? Moving to the January 10th minutes, that was a building committee meeting, the one that started it. Anybody have any trouble with those?
Great.
Okay, so the January 25th ones was a little bit of a combo. We had the bungled town warning meeting where I didn't understand a word. And then the rest of it was the committee meeting. If those are okay with everybody, then the last one, and are they? Let me go ahead and ask.
Yep.
And then the last one that we had was the special meeting on 2/1, where we finally got correct our warning and we signed off on, and that meeting has no video, but the minutes were here and it was in the school. Does anybody have any questions about those? So hearing no questions about any of these, I'd like to see a motion to approve these 4 sets of minutes as they were presented by our clerk.
Make a motion to approve these 4 sets of minutes as written by our clerk.
Thank you.
January 3rd, 10th, 25th, and February 2nd.
February 1st. Thank you. Awesome. Okay.
Second.
Second here. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of doing this, approving those 4 sets of minutes?
Aye.
All right. Going for speech. Those are approved. Okay. I'll move now to administrative reports.
Okay, just some specifics from the written report that apply just to Danville. On the Renew American Schools grant, the concept letter went in on January 26th when it was due. There's quite a bit in that. I said in here how much the total was for all of CCSU. For Danville, the projects for Danville specifically that are included in that concept letter, it's a replacement of the units on the roof, the 10 units on the roof. Some updates to the HVAC controls, so you can actually control temperatures and airflow in different rooms. Replacing whatever remaining fluorescent lighting fixtures are in the building with LED units. Those 3 projects just for Danville, if we were to get this approved in the concept letter, and these are rough estimates, came out to $1.166 million. If we get past the concept stage and are allowed to file a formal application, those numbers will be refined. We'll have to update those. I went a little high, which is surprisingly is called being conservative, just to get them on the table. But we'll have to have detailed estimates and current estimates on all of these things. So waiting to hear if our concept letter's been approved. I'll let you know when I find out. On the PCB testing, I have an approved work plan, and the work plan was, the way this works is the engineer submits one. DEC is actually responsible, Department of Environmental Conservation is actually responsible for approving the work plan for the source testing. That was done. I signed the contract. Right now it's scheduled for February 27th, 28 with a target date for a report sometime before April 7th. The contract cost for the source testing is $33,832, and Danville's responsible for 20% of that cost of $67.66 under the current reimbursement plan that AOE is operating under. The last thing is I canceled the teaching lab contract. Project was not going good. I pulled it to talk to Sarah, and we pulled the plug on it. We are paying out half the contract value at $19,500, and that's for work completed so far. So it was originally $39,000. I just came to agreement with the company this afternoon on what we're actually going to have to pay. So they were in for 2 sessions and did some prep work to get prepared for the 3rd session. So I agreed to pay half the contract value.
And here for 2 other visits. So 4 total visits.
They were here for 4. How many more continuing ed days do we have left?
There's 2 more early release days on the calendar right now. That time's going to be, I think, reallocated to some. Well, Sarah can talk about what she's talked to Des about for those.
Okay.
Has that been firmed up, Sarah?
No.
Okay, so there's still some discussion going on about what the PD opportunities are for those 2 remaining early release days. There's one in March and one in May, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so there's some ongoing professional development talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
we still have the days, so they're going to do something useful with it.
Yep.
All right.
That's all I got.
Any questions for the superintendent? Do you want to try to entice anybody to join on that Vermont Rural Education Collaborative Training with your curriculum coordinator?
Okay.
I went fishing at the CCSU level, didn't get any bites.
Some people have stepped forward. I don't have a complete list of who has. You're talking about the community engagement thing, right?
Yeah, it's 3 hours, then a whole Saturday, then a whole Saturday, then 3 hours. So I commit to some of it, but and make it sound so enticing. Sounds super great.
Yeah, you appreciate your.
I'll go into it. All right. I can send around the link. It's with Des. She's our curriculum coordinator. She was really good at making reports and real friendly. And so she set up the table. And so you consider her table, that's the cell, I think. I sent it to you and to you. All right, I have no other questions. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none, student services report is what's next. So the student services report we got. It came in today's packet. So I had a question today, just now before the meeting started, Mark, about when are these reports ready? Let's say your superintendent's report and the student services report, when are they actually active? Because we don't get them until today in the packet via email. And I just wonder if there's a way that we could get them a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you weren't, I thought what I saw going on in the packet was an update to the packet, so you hadn't seen it until what you got today?
I think so. Katie, she gathers up everything, and she doesn't publish it until she publishes the packet, because there's always things that are going to get added to the packet. And we have a spot in our in our bracket called meeting documents that I'm trying to get her to throw everything in as she gets it. So there's just but it's not always there because she waits to do it until the very end, so she doesn't have to update it. And so I just didn't know if, because like this thing that we got from Des is it's a good read for us, but if you get it at 3 o'clock, it becomes a something.
Okay, I'll work
I
with
can talk
Katie
to-
on that.
Something where somebody gets in trouble, but if we had this sooner, we'd be a little bit easier to ask questions about the student services report and the curriculum report. Because as it stands, like I'm literally not getting them until 11:30, and
So I don't know, the curriculum report was done a while ago. I wrote my board report back 28th, 29th of January, something like that, and I give it to Katie. So I'll have a conversation with her about a better way to get that stuff out and not just rely on the packets. So
Okay.
But that's, in order to make that work effectively, that puts then that means that everybody that submits a report is going to have to get it. You know, I mean, it's not just our reports, it's, you know, it's principals' reports and the student services reports. So, you know.
yeah, I think we can come to a workaround. I'll come, we'll see if we can figure out a workaround, but I just wanted to bring that up as a topic because it just came into my ear here. And it's come up before. So. Yeah, Dave?
Okay, so when we get and says, here's the updated board packet between the packet that we got however many days ago and this, it would be nice if this is an addition to the packet. So we haven't got to compare the old packet to the new packet. And I'm wondering if there's a requirement for open meeting law if you're going to present an agenda so many days in advance and a packet is attached to it, is there a requirement for these minutes and stuff like that to be attached to it? The minutes and the reports and administrative reports and any other information.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to answer that off the top of my head. I'm going to sit down with Katie and we're going to talk through this whole workflow.
So I can trace the packet, the minutes. The minutes do get posted and they are posted, and the unapproved minutes are posted as well before they're at the regular posting places. So the unapproved minutes are sitting up next to the agenda, but they get posted separately. And then the rest of it just comes in as it comes in. So it's an ongoing thing. We'll just keep working on it.
All right, no, it's a fair point. I'll have a note to talk with Katie about this.
All right, so
Clayton, can I comment on
Please.
the student services report? So under the PD, Anne has been working to use the ARP IDEA grant money. So she's been communicating with principals, and then we met today. She's working to schedule 2 different one math and one reading focused PDs, and all of our interventionists, unless they're retiring, and then special educators K-8 or K-12, I'm sorry, are going to be attending these. And then there's also some additional trainings that they're able to opt into. So we're definitely taking advantage of that money here at Danville, which is good. That's all.
great. Okay, Any questions? Moving to the principal's report.
Oh, wait, what about the curriculum report?
Oh, did we miss
It's
that?
after,
Oh.
if it doesn't. matter.
So they're backwards in the packet.
Yeah.
The curriculum report. Then we'll go to the curriculum report. There's a lot of education opportunities here for teachers. I guess that they would go for everybody, but this is one of the things that was always not made clear was what can teachers do to improve themselves? Because we get BSBA updates all the time. Now we have an idea of what they can actually do in the course of whatever. Now, I guess I would have a question. If somebody wants to sign up for one of these, they just submit it, they can get it paid for most of the time, right? If the teacher says. I would like to-
Most of the time.
Yeah.
It depends on
So-
if it's a 4-credit course or just a workshop. If it's 4 credit, if it's courses for credit, then there are guidelines in the collective bargaining agreement on how many credits we'll pay for in a given school year. And it's typically 6 per year, 6 credits or 2, college courses per year. The workshops are different. They're cheaper. We don't really have there's nothing in the CBA other than they'll be, paid for if they're approved by the principal and superintendent. So.
Just made available. This is it's just learning opportunities that are available that we weren't, as board members, weren't previously aware what exactly was
Right.
available. A better idea.
Yeah, and this
So-
goes out electronically to all the staff, so they can just click right in there and we keep a good budget line for those workshops and stuff in our budget.
Awesome. Any questions about that?
So they would pay for this, how would they pay for these workshops?
We pay for
We
it.
pay for it,
Yeah,
okay.
they submit a PD request form
Yeah.
and we put it through with a PO. We're moving away from having anybody try to pay out of pocket and get reimbursed when at all possible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, chasing your own money back's no fun.
yeah.
That's a good system.
Yep.
All right, and then there's some winner all those pictures at the back of our thing for the fun of this. I'm gonna see you're kidding. Okay, so we are through with the curriculum report. Now we'll go to principal's report. Get some kids, and just
Just get a pick a kid.
and just get some kids. It's that easy. All you
Might
gotta get some kids.
Choose.
I'll go in mine.
I don't know if you guys have any questions right off. It was great to do our rescheduled elementary concerts last week. They all went off very, very well. The advanced ensemble just did one too that was incredible. Did a cafe night that's happened a couple of years now. And then the other really cool thing to highlight is the library. We put a Facebook post up about that when that happened, that we were given 50 free books, and I don't really know how we were chosen. Lydia just said, look what we just got. And so it was a really cool recognition and something that we want to make sure that we're highlighting here in our library in our school.
So,
Yeah. Any questions?
you have questions for Sarah?
Wonderful.
No reasons. Okay. I'm showing the spot. No, Danville works. I'll just skip it, Dave.
No, we're not. I mean, we can, but I've got a quick update at least.
Okay, so Danville works, we're gonna go.
Yep, we'll go. Mark, my screen sharing ability, please. Cool. So I did not submit a written report. I've been, in addition to some busy times here at school, there's been sort of an ongoing medical thing with me that is fine during the day, but leaves me tired and grouchy and in pain pretty much for the last month. So it's been a reduced capacity on my part. That's the thing. I'm gonna send out a public report by the end of the week or early next week, and you will all get that. This is time to update the public. So what I did want to do really quickly while we're here, though, is just highlight a little bit of what we've been up to. With some images. The middle school has really I know I'm screen sharing, thanks. In my mind, the middle school's really been a highlight this year. I jumped into that. It's a substitute middle school tech ed teacher and got some great things going. So the garden bed project is now finished. We have 8 beds built by students, 3 of them from our own lumber out there in the snow. We stacked them up, stained them all at once. It was quite the rush. Seventh grade has jumped into cooking. They were really big on wanting to do that, and so we transitioned from outdoor learning to cooking for the second half of the semester. And our focus was on simple ingredients from scratch. It was, I never thought teaching seventh grade cooking was kind of gonna be like the temporary love of my life. It was a great time. Really pleased to welcome Zach Baker. He is our new design tech teacher. He's jumped right in. The shop is a whirlwind right now. There's wood everywhere. They have plenty of sawdust.
Beautiful, beautiful.
He's teaching building trade sort of as a trade, so the entire process. He's also working with the environment or the engineering backup. Engineering sustainable solutions class, and the professionalism I've seen is just out of this world. He's a great addition.
Great addition.
Really, just great person, and also a really good, strong rapport with students. Seventh grade cooking, again, great fun. They really got into it. This is our garden bed, the last day, pretty much the last day before break. We had this all out, just like getting the beds out there, chopping through the snow. Also, high school cooking, high school culinary arts has had a major upgrade with the addition of Suzanne Pottizer, who is a local resident, former 7 Days food editor, chef, has started a few restaurants. And she is coming in on a part-time basis to teach that one period class. And it's been, you've seen some of it, right? And you've smelled some of it. Yeah, really good focus on quality and professionalism. The shop is being reorganized. This is going to be a small engine center again, like it used to be probably back in the day. It's always been a whirlwind of too much activity. Now it's a well-organized whirlwind of activity. So we've got ceramics and the ski center and the actual shop. We're going well. And I want to also really mention the Connect class. Nick Whites has really done a phenomenal job, especially with our staffing issues. The design of Connect is that there is a program assistant so that they can be out in the field. We have had a program assistant for about 2 months and are searching again. Part of the deal that this has been affected by our inability to hire and retain support staff. So Nick has really stepped up. They're building furniture right now. They designed that. They actually started meeting with the design program, the professional design program at Linden Institute to get some ideas and looked at some of their design tools. And they rebuilt the greenhouse. The greenhouse is complete. It is brand new. It is functional. It is not scraps of plastic. And I'm really proud of what they've done. And I'm really give a lot of credit to Nick for being able to step up and lead a 2-person program as a single inspector. Report.
Thanks.
Awesome. New guy's good.
Every new person's great. Great.
I met Suzanne the other day. She seems really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? No. We'll put Thomas on the spot now. Thomas, you're on the spot.
All right. I'm on the spot. So the first thing I had on here was about my project about the student representative position. So I had a meeting recently with Mr. Schelling and Mr. Cardinal and a bunch of the other people who are important.
Yeah, that's called, I was there, so it's not really that important.
Stakeholders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a better way
Other
to word
people.
it. Stakeholder, there we go. About the position, I got to hear about how the role fits within our school and processes involved in the position. We discussed using the Danville directions, which are lead, solve, connect, and express, as maybe a guideline where I can start to make a backbone for the position. The next thing I had, it's an update on getting to Y, which I talked about a couple months ago. The data that we were supposed to get last month got delayed again, so we can't do anything. So that's postponed. Winter Carnival's coming right up in a couple weeks. It's always really fun. We have projects that We have projects we do like skits and sculptures with our class. We got athletic events, those are always really fun. And then we got basketball still going on. It's coming to an end in a few weeks. Let's see. And then a couple weeks ago, we had a end of semester assembly. A bunch of students got awards for academic work throughout the semester. So I think it's good to see that recognized.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It felt really good to be back in that environment.
it did.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate Kessel's work.
And then we had some winter wellness days. High school had really big group that did skating and bowling, and we had a smaller group that went cross-country skiing at Craftsbury. That's what I did. It was really fun. That's about it.
So cycling back to the student representative position and the meeting that we had.
Yeah.
The pathways coordinator, Ms. Keach, was in there as well.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of ideas on how to change our actual policy. And I had to slow her down because she can't change our policy. She got over the handbook policy that she could submit changes to where the student handbook comes, but it's because it's our policy. She had some questions about what constituted a student in good standing and how that was defined, because she was worried about how and when to administer, to issue the credit that's listed as part of the thing. So there may be some ongoing discussions with that. The updates that we made to the policy in December have now been made to the actual policy, but we may see some more edits that we could potentially see for the actual student representative policy when it starts to be looked at as a class or a pathway to a student project, like it is this year. And that's one of the things Thomas is working. And he sat on an argument for a few minutes. That was an argument.
Yeah.
So that was great. All right, any questions for Thomas?
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so what we have next. Board business. With all these, board business, we're going to talk about the informational meetings and the town meeting plan. And are you going to start, Mark, or am I going to start?
I can. So we have two informational meetings. We synchronized with the select board on their meetings. And they had picked two dates. They moved one of their dates from the 20th to the 21st of February because we have a CCSU board meeting. So the first one is on February 21st. It's at the town hall. And we are the school board. The school is on for 7 p.m. to present the budget and take questions from the community. And then on the Monday before town meeting on March 6th, scheduled to be in the North Danville Community Center for identical forum. Oddly enough, I can almost throw a rock to the North Danville Community Center, and I've never been to one of the meetings there. So, but I'm told that it draws more people than the meeting at the town hall, which I have been to. So we are going to have to figure out who's going to cover the meeting in North Danville, because right now I'm triple booked. Beecham, Cabot, and Danville are all having informational meetings on March 6th. So we got to figure that out. Or be looking for somebody to speak up and say that they can present the school, do the school budget presentation at North Danville, and it'll be the one that we'll have prepared for February 21st. So you're not going to have to develop it. And if you come to the meeting on the 21st, you'll see how it's presented. I'll leave that to Clayton to enlist somebody to cover that. I think I'm looking for somebody, somebody from the school to cover the meeting on the 6th, because I'm going to have to ask Mike to cover Cabot, and I have to cover Peacham. So
we can consider, we'll be looking for volunteers to sit, and the North Danville room is usually, there's cookies at the end, and that's good, but there are a lot more people, like you said.
Hundreds of cookies.
There are a lot of cookies.
So many.
And
a lot of cookies.
so because these are informational meetings, and we've discussed this last year, we'll discuss it again this year. is they're not our meetings. We're guests at the meeting, but we're going first. So the select board keeps the minutes. They're informational meetings only. We need to have people there to represent the board, but we don't have to have a quorum of the board to participate. And the first one, they have pushed back to before, specifically before the winter break, so that, because nobody could ever come to the one on Thursday. So that's the 21st of Tuesday. The one on the 6th, there's going to be several absences because we're at the end of break. I know Tim has already said that on the 6th, he's on a plane. And so he won't be there for that. I'll be sitting at both. I can, you know,
Can go.
if you can go to the one in North Danville, we can probably tag team the presentation, and I can know the names of the people asking the questions, and you can help answer the questions. And Mark at the 21st one can handle it, and you can figure out, you know, just keep talking, and then eventually people, they put their hand back down. If that's your finding, Mark, the longer you talk, the more people just put their hands right back down.
I've had mixed experience with that. Sometimes that
At-
works.
At both of these things, for those of you that are candidates for the seats, if your seats are coming back open, there'll be a meet the candidate section of this where you'll have a minute or two to stand up, say who you are. If there are other candidates, they'll say who they are. No, as yet, none have materialized. The select board asked for people to come out at the last meeting and see who was who was interested. They have 2 seats that are going to be vacated. And they have 1 person who asked to be considered for the election of one of those. So there's an open select board seat. Our 3 seats, my understanding is everybody wants to sit back down if possible. Is that correct? Is that the idea for right now? At least up to that, if you're not bound by it, you're not bound by it till town meeting day, but that's my understanding. So there'll be an opportunity to stand up and say a few words. In my experience, the specific words don't matter as much as the standing up matters. So
I've done the North Danville one before. It's fun.
Fun.
Didn't stay for the cookies.
no, you didn't stay with the cookies. You went to a particularly rowdy one, the North Danville one that I was at.
Was that ready?
There was one that was rowdy where there was
Oh, about boilers. Yeah.
yeah, there was one that was rowdy where the star of the show was in the audience.
I've only ever done them on Zoom.
Yeah, you come down. They are giving away cookies. Bring your kids too, because they're giving away a lot of cookies.
That one is a
I
great,
don't
it's a
need
great.
to-
meet and greet.
Didn't document anything as.
We're gonna use their minutes.
Right.
We're gonna use we warned them so that we don't have to warn them. It's their meetings, we're the guests at them.
Okay.
But we warned them just so that the warnings look like our warnings when they get posted, so people can see the difference. When we get to the meetings, those meetings are informational only. We'll conduct no business. We don't need a quorum to be there. It's nice to have all the board members that are available fill up and just sit and, you know, take the scrutiny. And if you're candidates, you should be there. But then Audrey DeFrosepero will take the minutes, and there'll be adequate minutes, and they'll get posted on the website, just like they were last year. So 2-6, I'll be at both. Obviously, I'll be at both, so I can listen and learn and talk and answer questions where it's appropriate.
What time is the March 6th? Is that at
7 o'clock. Yeah, I don't know why they're scheduled for 7 o'clock.
Both
They're
of them are
scheduled for
7 though,
o'clock.
right?
Yeah.
The guy sitting next to me at the select board meeting said it's because of farmers. That didn't make any sense, but he said it's because of farmers.
Yeah.
Because North Danville being there was a lot of small farms there and they weren't able to get to town meeting during the daytime. And what they did was they would be there at night to voice their opinion after all their chores and
They're milking.
that was that.
And then they send their proxy to town, I guess. I don't know.
No,
Oh, they were heard.
All right, if you guys take the local paper, you see that it was in the question I had about whether or not we end up out of lockstep with town. Came up with Andrew McGregor. He asked Wendy Summers and she said it probably wouldn't happen. So she allayed my concerns in that article. Probably won't happen. They'll probably say it's okay. Okay, any more questions about that? All right, is Mike here? You want to do Mike next?
So,
Sure.
Yep.
I'm here. So, so there was been some questions about budget surpluses and how those occur and what happens when there's a budget surplus. I'm going to start off on this and then Michael will jump in if there's technical questions around it. When you approve a budget, or when you approve a budget, put it in front of the town and they vote and they approve it, we run that budget. If at the end of the fiscal year, you haven't spent all the money that was budgeted to be spent, you have what is known as a surplus, budget surplus. There is a separate article in the school district warning each year that is, in my experience, has always been approved, that asks the town for permission for the school board to retain any surplus monies to be used at the discretion of the school board. And that's usually approved without, I've never seen that challenged. And I think it's, you know, if the budget passes, that's going to pass. That's the authority of the school board to put that money away, that surplus money away, and surplus money from a budget goes into unrestricted surplus in Fund 1, which is your main operating fund for the school. Having that money go into an unrestricted fund means that you can do it, as the word unrestricted means, for anything that the school board deems appropriate to spend that money on within the bounds of your authority to spend money. So that's where most of the surplus money goes. We also have other surplus funds, reserve funds. There's a capital reserve fund. Money has to be specifically directed to the capital reserve fund. And you have the mission and vision fund that was set aside, that was created 3 or 4 years ago, where some money was put into that specifically to be used for specific purposes. And you'll get a briefing, a reminder of that when we get to that agenda item that was added at the beginning of the agenda. That's an example of a restricted fund. There are rules about what you can spend the money on and what you can't spend the money on. The one that's more familiar to this board is a 70 fund, which is specifically set aside for maintenance and upgrades of, I believe it's just outdoor athletic facilities. Correct, Dave, is that correct? It's for outdoor stuff?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, for, baseball, soccer fields, things like that. We used money from the 70 fund a couple of years ago to build new dugouts on the baseball field and things like that. So the thing about the restricted funds, whatever money is sitting in the capital reserve fund right now can only be expended on capital projects. We can always supplement money in the capital reserve fund with money from unrestricted reserves if we need to spend it for something on a capital project, but it can't go the other way. You can't spend capital reserve funds or 70 funds or mission and vision funds for any purpose other than what they were defined to be spent on. So that's kind of just a quick overview of it. That I can show you. I know that there was a question that came up. Let me find it. Yeah, I already opened it. Hang on.
Was it my question?
Yeah, he's gonna.
I want to share a screen here because there'd been a question asked about grant monies coming in. I'm showing you something from a couple pages from the audit report. Molly Anderson, Michael sent you the full audit report today to peruse through, but somebody had asked a question about the money that we got from Efficiency Vermont for the emergency repairs on the air ventilation system, and where does that show up? It doesn't show up in the budget, but it shows up here in this report here on the revenue and expenditure report from the audit. So I highlighted this line here, that $586,648. That's the money that we got from Efficiency Vermont in 2020 to do the emergency repairs. And it shows up as an expenditure down here in the capital outlay line. And the reason that those numbers are different is that one of two explanations. We either spent it either cost us more than $586,000 to do those emergency repairs and we supplemented it, or that $620,000 total includes other capital outlays for other purposes. But that money flowed in and it flowed back out, and that's where it shows up. So it doesn't show up in the budget because we didn't budget that money. But it's in the report and it's properly accounted for. And I'm going to stop there and see if anybody, I don't know if I've hit the questions that people were asking.
No, I appreciate that, Mark. And just for some context, I had a conversation with a community member and this came up and I didn't have the answer. So that's what prompted me to email Mark and Mike about it. So, it was more about we don't have to go down this road, but, is there, and it got me thinking about the Mission and Vision Fund too. Is there a document that tells what the parameters are for all of these funds? Is there, instead of looking through minutes, is there something we have that just, 'cause it sounds like you pulled up the minutes.
I pulled up so this is not the Mission and Vision Fund thing, but so in any one of these with the surplus, there is a specific set of rules like he's talking about.
Yeah.
You can't spend the money without board approval, but it's unrestricted. That restricted fund, you're looking to say, I don't know if that
Like,
document
say like
exists.
this, the 70 fund, is there something that tells us exactly what we
Yes.
can, do you know what I'm
I feel
saying?
like I've seen that
So we don't have to
before.
go in the minutes every time to, I'm not at all
Yeah, no.
criticizing, I'm.
Mr. Tucker sent and sent around copies of the endowments and stuff like that, where it lists, you know,
The-
this here, you know, the restrictions and what you
Okay.
can.
I think we did that in the beginning of this year when we were
Yeah.
onboarding.
Yeah.
We showed you, but.
Yeah.
That things where we show, I'm gonna show you 55
Right.
things,
Yeah,
and then you might get 35 of them, and then the other 20 are just out. there.
so I can find that somewhere in an email, probably.
Back in the minutes, you know.
Yeah, Molly, we're happy to scrape that up again and resend it. I don't have it
Okay.
handy right in front of me right now, but I
Yeah,
know that
that's
we have
something
that.
I've been specifically asked about that, just where that, for all these different funds, where is that written down in terms of the parameters for each one? And I saw
Yep.
Clayton, setting up the minutes, I was like, am I gonna have to go through all these
Yeah.
minutes?
No, not for that. Not for that. We'll get that sent out to the entire board. I
Yeah,
can
that
help
would be
scrape
great
that up.
to have that, and I can send it along.
It always helps to be able to answer questions. I had a question last year, why don't you have to give us that money back? I said, I'm a town person, why? And I said, because you allowed us to do it and when you signed the article. And if you look at the votes on the way the votes went, people that voted for the budget is a much lower number voted to let us keep that money for capital funds because they know we use it for emergencies. Like people are reading those things before they're signing them. It's not just the exact same number as the budget. People are reading those articles before they sign off on them. Which I can show you that later in the town. When the town reports come final, you'll see those numbers, but in that article is definitely read by the people that vote for it.
Dave, I want to answer your question about the doors.
Mhm.
Just,
Yeah, thank you.
that is, the first round of security cameras was when I first got here, that came out of a safety grant that we got at the time.
Mhm.
The second round and the lockdown system, I believe, came out of unrestricted surplus funds. We talked about that. I came to y'all with a laundry list a couple of years ago of things, and it was a painful list, but it was all necessary stuff. So that's where we got that's where the doors came from.
So I think another part of this discussion is why is there extra money? Because the budget, and it's because so much of what gets budgeted is estimates.
I'm not as much, I wasn't, the
No,
question, I mean, my question wasn't
No,
about the
but
surplus.
These are the
but
questions
makes
that come
sense.
up. These are the questions that come up with the public is, why would you possibly have budgeted enough that you have 200,000 extra at the end of the year to put into this fund? And it's because a lot of it is grants and a lot of it is
Right.
whatever. And in this case, this year, quite a bit of it is unfilled positions.
Right, I was gonna say.
And, and then last year it wasn't because so much of it was substitute money that you didn't expect to have to pay out over and over again. So because there's so much fluctuation and because the grant money comes in extra, and then like, because the special ed money comes in variable. And this year, like, we're gonna get killed on special education for the weirdest reason that we don't have as many special ed kids as normal, but we have the same staff. So because we're estimating so many things, there's no real way to know precisely to the, to within $100, Price is Right style of how much you're actually going to spend to operate a facility.
I like the good answers because they're thrifty.
Yeah.
So the other possible outcome at the end of any fiscal year is that you've overspent the budget. So, if you budget $5 million and you spend $5,200,000, now you have a $200,000 deficit. That hasn't happened in Danville in my time. I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying, not in my experience with Danville, that you've run a budget deficit. But we're not like patting money away or tucking money away so that we have extra to spend. We're just, I think it's a combination of what Clayton just said, plus some good fiscal management, plus straightforward, the last 3 years, especially because we had so much federal grant money coming in that offset some of our other expenses. We were able to charge some of our maintenance, building maintenance and cleaning costs to ESSER funds and things like that. So Everybody has been running a slight surplus the last few years, last 2 or 3 years, and Danville's just had some good fortune around their budget surpluses. But
Now regarding
you guys-
the deficit. Regarding going into deficit, if you think you're going to deficit, you got to stop spending. You can't willingly spend in a deficit, right? If you're aware that you're doing it, then you got to stop buying paper.
Well, you try to manage to that number. It's not that you're going to be penalized for having a budget deficit, but the reality is that you have to make up for that deficit in the next budget year, the next budget cycle. So, and this has happened in some of the other districts over the years, that they spent more than they had approved in their budget, and then had to turn around the next year, and you can't carry a deficit forward across multiple years. So you have to include that deficit in your spending for the next fiscal year. So, and that just complicates your budget process for the upcoming fiscal year.
And one of the ways we help with that is sometime in April, we put a pause on spending. And really everything has to we tighten up those processes a lot more, making sure encumbrance is clear and all of that, so that we're really confident that we're in a good space.
And that's also why sometimes you see like if you go through it line by line, you'll see lines that don't necessarily match, right? So if we see that pathways, for example, which is where pathways, dues and fees is a pretty high line in the high school budget. That's where all of the college courses come from, anytime we pay for a dual enrollment class. So if we see that people didn't get dual enrollment classes and that line's really high, we might realize that there's a need for books somewhere else. We're going to code it to that book line to be correct. And so what you'll see in the end of the year is books are over budget, but then something else is under budget.
Yeah.
So you see those variances a lot.
Yeah.
Because we don't, as a district, some districts do, we don't do journal entries to try to correct it along the way.
Mhm.
It gets complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions on that? From anybody? There may be someone we think of, Mark, and we email them to you, or, if somebody has any questions,
Yeah.
they'll know that they can.
Thank you.
Okay, working with that one.
Mike,
I'm
I
left
think,
with-
can we let
He
Mike
even-
go?
Does he want to make
He
it?
didn't even talk.
Say any words? He likes talking. Mike,
No,
Mike,
don't get him started. Send him home.
The only thing I'll add is that I sent Mark some of the documents I think Molly was asking for, so I hope that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
You did, thank you, Mike.
Mike's the one that put that together too.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you, Mike.
thank you, Michael.
Okay, so that one's done. We're gonna go now to the 2022 to 2025 teacher contract.
Okay.
And so this one's me. That was a lengthy and involved process to get to an agreement with the teachers in the middle of this particular cycle. And I'll give you some of the ideas of why. In the contract itself, in the past negotiating session where we had the contract that led up to 2022, a lot of the work that was done by both sides on the agenda was trying to get the language common between the Twinfield Union, Cabot, and the CCA legacy schools, because it was so widely disparate across the three. This is the remnants of the Act 46 process. Is however many years ago, 8 years ago, a legislator circled Twinfield, Cabot, and Danville on a map and said, I've done my part. Now the rest of it is operational efficiency.
They're pretty close.
And what you're left with is three completely different schools, plus three completely unlike schools, plus one little darling just down the road. And all those schools have to have the same rules. And so when I say the same rules, I mean the same, they're supposed to have the same workday, they're supposed to have the same salaries, they're supposed to have the same rights and responsibilities, they're supposed to have the same insurance, and they're supposed to have the same whatever. Insurance got taken away from us in the middle of the last session, so that health insurance for teachers is now negotiated and maintained at the state level. And that took away for everybody locally in the small districts a negotiating point that you could use to make it easier to get contracts done. So that went away, and that had to be rectified in the last cycle of negotiations. In the last cycle of negotiations, we also had a widely disparate salary structure between the 5 CCA legacy schools, because the Waterford school had to come in. So we spent a lot of time working with the CCA legacy schools and left 3 separate bargaining groups of the CCA legacy schools to include Waterford, and they had to be bumped up. Cabot was left alone by themselves with their own separate salary structure, their own rights and responsibilities, but they were very similar to the Twinfield Union Schools' rights and responsibilities and salary structure. So then when we came together this time, the focus for the negotiating council of the three combined schools was to sort of make steps towards a common salary structure. The teachers had a similar idea, but at different numbers. And so there was a lot of negotiation around what we were going to do. And this is, so now we're not post-pandemic, we're post, we're no longer in a lockdown, but we're in the middle of this. Inflation has blasted off. And so we're looking at these higher numbers. And in the room, sitting with us in the room is a lawyer all the time who's telling us what's happening in nearby districts. And so that we have an idea of what who we're negotiating against and what we're negotiating against statewide. And we're sitting in this room and come to an agreement with the teachers. And these are the people that we work for. And along the way, we did also the support staff as well. That one got finished in the middle. This teacher's contract went to impasse. It went to a mediator. It came back out of a mediator. We came back and sat down. Then it went to just the big kids in the room. Then it got finished and done, and numbers came back to us, and they weren't tenable. And we sent them back again with the same people to come back. And we arrived at a salary structure that really specifically tried to make similar, but not the same because we couldn't get there. The salary structure between Twinfield Union, Cabot, and the CCDA legacy schools, with a special emphasis on the year one, square one, column one, row one. That number for Danville schools and for the CCA schools was shockingly low and was so much lower than all the schools in Kingdom East and the schools to the west of us, that we were asking people to come over here to work for less money. And it makes it more difficult to draw new teachers. And so that's the first place that you're looking for teachers, is brand new teachers. And then the rest of it was, we wanted to trickle that money down through the contract so that we picked up a couple of other spots to make it more normal across the board. And we got that done. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's a 4.5% increase across the board, and then a 5.5%, and then a 5.5%. Is that right, Mark?
Or 575 and 575.
Those
Those are new money percentages.
Those are new percentages, but they're not distributed equally across the 7 schools. And so they're distributed across the 7 schools in an uneven manner, which was agreed to by those 7 bargaining units, as it were. So to make it easier to sort of make normal these salaries. And so when we got the salaries again, and you look at them and you'll see them if you went through the thing, all the rights and responsibilities are largely the same. We weren't able to, there's a couple things we weren't able to fix that we'll go attack in a couple of years. And the salaries are closer so that we're a little bit better prepared to recruit teachers and hopefully people. And what I'd like for you guys to please agree to this. Because it was hard won, and I think that the teachers will say the same. I think teachers will say that they gave some ground as well.
So can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
we have a couple new board members, because that was a great overview and a great explanation of the maybe even said a little nicer than I would have said it. I want to explain for the benefit of the new members on the board, Molly and Melissa, what we're talking about when we're talking about percentage increases. So when we say that we settled for 4%, 5.75 and 5.75, that is not the increase for each individual teacher. So teacher contracts and support staff contract settlements are expressed in terms of something called new money. And I give you a very simple explanation of how new money works so that you can get your head around this. Suppose that all of our teachers, if you total up the salary cost, just the salary, not benefits, the salary cost for all the teachers in our schools, and it totaled $1 million. If we give a 4% new money increase, we are adding 4% to that $1 million, which is $40,000. Okay, so now the new total of salary money that's available is $1,040,000. That money then is divided up or distributed across all of the teachers, and that distribution is done was done unequally in this case, so that we could give more money to the teachers out in the 5 Caledonia County schools, a little less money to Cabot, and a little less money to Twinfield. So we're trying to close the gap on the salary schedule. So one of the things that we always, and we're always braced for this when we issue the new contracts, teachers will come in and say, well, I thought I was getting 4%. I thought I was getting 5.5%. And they didn't get that because they don't understand the difference between new money and just a straight salary increase. We never negotiate on percentage increases for each individual teacher. It doesn't work that way. So if those sound like big percentages, it doesn't mean, they're, whether you think those are big numbers or not, it does not mean that every one of the teachers in Danville school has got a 4% raise for this current year, and will get 5.75 for each of the 2 subsequent years of the contract. And I know everybody.
There's a lawyer at every meeting that knows what's going on in the neighboring districts and supervisory unions, and he gives us a lot of advice as we go. So we're not sitting in a way we're just being pushed around. It really helps to have Chris Leopold in the room. And if I could just take a minute here, I'd like to thank Jenny Lavley. Jenny Lavley has agreed, even since she came off the board, the entire time. She sat in on 3 more sets of negotiations since she stopped being a board member. She's always there. She's always positive. She always takes notes. She's a big help.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
and that's where we are. So the money that is in the 22 budget is already, we're budgeted for this. We're ready to do it. There's going to be a special check run once this runs through the ratification process so that these teachers can get the money, the back pay that they're owed for this. That we're budgeted for this in the FY24, and we'll have to budget for this in FY25. And this is one of those things in the FY24 budget. When you look at it, we already had an idea what these numbers were going to be, so we knew what we were budgeting for. So when we talked about what we could and couldn't control, this is something that there's only a degree to which we controlled it. But when we had the increase in these wages and benefits, a lot of this was already taken care of because we had the numbers were tentatively agreed to prior to the budget season, which was very helpful. It would have been helpful to have it all the way finished. We had tentatively agreed to the numbers, just not quite the distribution of them. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody know how many different squares and columns there are in the salary scale? Like 80. There's like 80 different salaries you can have, and on either side of any of them, you can be off scale. You can be off, you can fall off left and right, back on it. Our salary scale was, a lot of work was done by some math teachers in Waterford to put together a salary scale that made more sense than the one we had. So that the numbers made, so that when you move down one row or over one column, the numbers made sense. And that previously they did not. Previously, a lot of those numbers were made up.
So this year is the 4% and the 2 575s. That's for when you say 4 575 and 575% increases, that what are the two?
So the 4% increase of new money that went into the entire bargaining team.
Yeah.
And now what we have is, this is another thing that's different, is there is one, the CCEA now includes Twinfield and the Twinfield Union, but not Cabot.
Mhm.
So now there's 2 separate groups. There's Cabot and there's
Okay, so I
CCEA.
see. So there's.
But the
they're
4%
grouping
goes
together.
in, they agreed to take uneven distribution of that to
Mhm.
make normal these things. So in
Okay.
this case, because Danville's salaries are lower than Twinfield, to move Danville salaries and the other town salaries in the legacy CCA up, we're going to see a higher percentage of that 4% overall
Right.
come into our school. So our numbers are going to be higher than Twinfield's in terms of how many dollars extra they got. And again, that came in through the base largely. So that came in through the beginning of the salary scale, not the end of the salary scale. In the next year, it's the same. Because we're trying to make up in terms of a starting salary, going into this, a starting salary in Danville or Waterford or one of these schools over here was about $38,000, where a starting salary in Twinfield was about $43,000, 42.5. So they wanted to get somewhere. So we're trying to make up $3,000 of base salary, which trickles in $3,000 of base salary for all of their younger teachers in the building, first and foremost. And if you have an elementary kid, you know that a lot of our teachers are younger. So it's a lot of money in Danville that goes on to the base salary of all those and then trickles down through the first several years. And then the money dwindles a little bit toward the bottom of the salary structure. It doesn't continue on as much through the entire salary structure. So not everybody got $3,000 extra dollars, and also $3,000 extra dollars isn't as many percentage points as it is in the beginning of that. So there's an uneven distribution of the money, and there's an uneven distribution among how much you make. But that was all agreed to with the teachers.
And Molly, just to be clear, this is a 3-year contract. That's why there's 3 different percentages.
Yeah, I think that's where I was getting at. Say that
Okay.
again.
FY
Mark, so-
20
Yeah,
23,
okay.
FY 24, FY 25.
Okay.
This, we're in FY 23,
Right.
so we have to pay back on this FY 24, the whole next
Right.
coming year, our
Okay.
salary is settled.
Yeah,
FY 25, our salary with teachers is settled at a percentage point. In that year, though, our salary with support staff is back open. So now we might have them in alternating years.
so that's that five
That's
seventy-five.
575. So we
Got
got
it,
a
okay.
3-year contract with those. increases.
Sorry, wasn't clear. Yeah.
Oh, that's what.
So. So the FY 23 is the 2022-2023 school year.
Mhm.
Yes.
So FY, so he had, it on the agenda, it says 2022 to 2025, but we're. So
Effective.
FY
The effective date of the contract is July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. That's why it's worded that way.
7 to 6/30/2025. Got it. Okay, I don't know the wording of the motion here, Mark. I don't know how much you need.
For somebody to move to ratify the
FY
settlement for teachers for the 3-year teacher settlement that was presented by the
So
board.
there's no special, we don't need the dollars, we don't need the percentages, we don't need anything like that. Does anybody have any questions about it? So do you think it was, I know you spent more time than I did, but I probably spent 150 hours on this, like sitting in a room 150 hours, not blurting out screams. It was really, I was really good. I was really quiet when I was supposed to be quiet. So
Thank
please
you.
say yes
Thank
to
you for
this.
stepping in that
I don't want to go,
game.
I don't want
Be helpful. So what is the motion?
Yeah, what do you need?
I need a motion to approve.
Ratify.
I need a motion to ratify the teacher contract with the CCA for fiscal years 23, 24, and 25.
Make that motion.
So I got that motion on the table. I'm looking for a second.
Oh, second.
I got a second on that one.
Quick.
Yes, sir.
My wife works for other schools, so I will be abstaining.
So
He's
okay.
not, well, your wife is not covered by this contract,
In this, she's not in this bargaining unit, so
not in his
he-
bargaining unit, but if you feel more comfortable abstaining, you can.
you're certainly welcome to abstain because that way, that just, that's always been the way he's done it, and I think it's fine.
Okay,
Okay,
She's got friends here.
got an abstention. Got an abstention.
we all
and
have
then-
friends there, Dave.
Okay, so hearing no further questions, all in favor of approving this, ratifying this contract, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
And I as well on this one for sure. So that was gonna go 4-0 with an abstention. Okay. And that's that.
Yay.
All right, and so there'll be a special check run and one of all these, and they're gonna hustle through, but not until we get it all the way through the CCSU one, which comes on February the 20th. And the teachers are aware of that. So if anybody says, where's my money? They gotta wait until at least the 20th. All right, past that, we got nothing. Public input?
No, we have.
No,
to
you
do
could,
the-
didn't you add some agenda items?
Sorry, I forgot about that. I added to the agenda. I'm very sorry. So we added to the agenda from a special reserve fund. A request on mission and vision. For literacy. And I'll turn that one to Sarah.
So the school has typically done either a literacy fair or an arts fair every other year. This will actually be the first literacy fair because of COVID that I've seen. So our librarian Lydia Pitkin and Pathways coordinator Rachel Keach have really worked hard to pull this together. We're gonna do this the 2 weeks right before April break. And they've got a lot of different authors coming in, different activities for the kids, different just a lot of very engaging things so that students can touch literacy in a lot of different ways. Throughout that time, there's going to be a community night that couples with I don't know if it's senior projects. That makes, that's probably not, is that the right time, senior projects, April?
I could,
maybe pathways,
Maybe
something.
pathway
So
presentations.
there's gonna be a community night.
That's not, that, what they typically is that's the one that's not all the way.
Yes.
They do their initial presentations.
Yeah.
To the town.
Um,
Some of them.
and so we're gonna
It's a
tie
poster
in,
board party.
yeah, so we'll tie in some of this too. But they're requesting, and it's already gone through the Danville teacher leader team, but they're requesting $3,300, so $3,300 from the Mission and Vision account to fund the different projects, and they detailed out what that is all going for as well.
So you guys can see the details there. I sent you, again, I sent you around the procedure that we talked about and agreed to was that this would not, this would come to the school board as a finished request from the leadership team that would approve it. And then we would, we have to allocate the money. So this isn't necessarily ours to pick apart and say, we don't need, you know, that we don't need 2 guests or whatever. This is not, that's not our role in this. Our role in this is to decide whether this money supports the mission and the vision of the school and say yes or no. So if there are any questions about it, it would be about whether this suits the mission and vision of the school or not, anything else. And we got that, the rules on this one will cycle around again, but I showed them to you today. So are there any questions about this one? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
So you make a motion to approve
For $3,300
out of the mission.
out of
and
the
vision.
Mission and Vision Fund.
All right, great.
So
Second here. Any question? All in favor?
Right.
That was easy.
Thank you
All
all.
right. Well, thanks for putting it in writing. Thanks for getting it together with the leadership team. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, thanks to Lydia and Rachel. They've done a lot of work thus far, so.
All right, great. And there's an aspect to this where people can come read to elementary kids.
Yes,
That's still on?
that is my understanding.
So
Yeah,
that-
bringing in community.
That's what Facebook is for. It's
Um,
tell them
yep.
you can come read in the classroom. We want you in the building.
Yep.
All you gotta do is fill out this one piece of paper and they're gonna walk in here with a piece of paper and say, let me read the kids.
Yep.
That's gonna happen. So if you let it happen, that'll happen. All right. That's it. Now we're done with that one. Nothing else? Public input? Hearing none. Now, here we go. Future agenda items and next meeting date. This is 2 things we gotta talk about. Our next meeting will be reorganizational pending any special sessions that I don't know about as of right now. Otherwise, our next meeting would normally occur on the first Tuesday of the month, which is town meeting day. We won't know the results of the election probably at that point. We can't meet. And not everybody will be sworn in, everybody or something. So we need to pick a different meeting date. And then figure out where we're gonna go from there. And this is, Mark, this is where you tell us when you're available.
All right,
Tuesday the 11th. So we want to go Tuesday the 11th, but we bet you have a different meeting.
What?
right
Tuesday the
next.
14th.
I was like,
Tuesday the
yeah,
14th. Yeah.
wrong year.
all right,
might
can't do Tuesday.
Right,
we might not be here.
We don't know yet.
So
right?
I need to know, Mark, when you can meet to reorganize this board.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
ready to
last year-
answer that.
Last year we met on
So-
the Thursday.
All right, so listen, so the 7th is town meeting day. We could do the 8th or the 9th, that Wednesday or Thursday. The following Monday and Tuesday are tied up, so we could do the 8th and the 9th, or the 9th, we could do the 15th or the 16th. But I'm gonna have other districts that are gonna want special meetings too, so speak up.
We want the 8th. We want the 8th.
You want the 8th?
I want the 8th.
Okay, I'll get Katie going on that.
All right, so that was
It's not.
It's at 6.
the 8th is 6th.
Got it?
Okay, so that's the next meeting date. Okay,
Great, I guess, basketball's over by now.
a little bit better, just the event save. Okay.
Well,
Future
basketball.
agenda items. For right now, I don't know any that are different yet. So I'm gonna leave that off and I'll get in touch with you guys if I come up with anything or something, and then usually the work expands to meet the day in this case. So see what we get.
And
But
Clayton, just so you know, Mike sent me, he found the write-ups for those 3 funds. He sent them to me. I forwarded them to the board. So you already have them in your inboxes.
Here.
Mark, can you send them to me too, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
So that'll
Yeah,
give you
that's
the
great.
specifics of those. And
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right, so that's it. I'll get to you on agenda items. Next meeting date is set. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll take it.
7:08.
7:08. Second. And then voting, say yes.
I,
Meeting adjourned.
Bye.
look, I did so good.
Guys, I'm impressed.